Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a Diablo and Overwatch news wrap-up video where we give our thoughts on the happenings of the week. This is our 9th episode in this series, and if you've missed any of our previous episodes, go make sure you have your subscription notifications turned on. In the first half of our show, we talk about Diablo news, and in the second half, we talk about Overwatch. Now today's big topic is about Gamescom, mostly on the Diablo side. Which is ironic because, given the content of Gamescom, you think it should be the other way around. Now, Blizzard showed Overwatch tons of love during Gamescom this year. And later on in this video, we'll cover all the new stuff that was announced, all the new content, all the reveals. But first, let's cover the big, major reveal for Diablo at Gamescom this year. What? What's a Dababo? Did we forget one of our games? That's right, there was absolutely nothing for Diablo at Gamescom this year. Diablo wasn't even mentioned in Blizzard's intro video, which lasted about 5 minutes and showed every one of their other games. And this basically ties into our weekly community complaint corner, which mostly revolved around this week. People are disappointed that Diablo was basically ignored during Gamescom, that there was nothing to show, and that Blizzard basically didn't even acknowledge the franchise. Now, I have two major thoughts on this. And the first major thought is, if you were disappointed, what were you expecting? Blizzard in no way suggested that they were going to have anything Diablo related at Gamescom. As we covered in our last video, we should have expected nothing for Diablo at Gamescom. When we saw all the streamers that they had lined up for all their other games and no streamers for Diablo, everything was clear that there was going to be no announcement, no reveal, no anything new for Diablo at Gamescom. At Gamescom 2016, Blizzard invited one of the biggest Diablo 2 streamers and one of the biggest or the biggest Diablo 3 streamer. People got very hyped up and nothing was ultimately revealed and people were disappointed. Blizzard, probably trying to avoid its mistake from last year, did not invite anything, did nothing at all in any way to hype up Diablo at Gamescom. And yet we saw people who are like, well, I thought they would surprise us. Well, surprise! It just seems Blizzard can't win here. So that's my first thought. We just shouldn't have expected anything. But my second major thought on this is that I could understand why there is disappointment. It's been said time and again that Diablo is Blizzard's red-headed stepchild. That Blizzard doesn't love Diablo as much as its other franchises. It doesn't give Diablo the same amount of support, be it financial or otherwise. And I do agree that this is what appears to be the case. And I know Blizzard co-founder Frank Pierce came out at BlizzCon 2016 saying we love Diablo and reaffirming that. So I'm not questioning the feelings. I'm just stating that the message sent out to the community, the message that we're getting, the impression that we have, is that Blizzard doesn't love Diablo as much as its other IPs. That said, I make the distinction between Blizzard, the corporate entity, and the Diablo team. And I believe the Diablo team does love the game very much, and they're very passionate about it. They're very passionate about the franchise, and they are working hard and doing their best with the resources they have. I think a lot of us from the community just wish that that amount of resources was greater. But what do you folks think about all this? Were you disappointed by Gamescom? Do you feel that Blizzard loves Diablo any less than its other games? Now, it's not all doom and gloom for Diablo this week. We do have some positive topics to cover, and one is a major positive topic for Diablo fans in general, specifically Diablo 2 fans. We've known for a long time that Blizzard had the desire to remaster its old games. We've just seen the release of StarCraft remastered. Within the community, the possibility of a Diablo 2 remaster has certainly come up a lot. But when I interviewed David Brevik, one of the fathers of Diablo 2, who's no longer with Blizzard, he suggested that it would be very difficult for Blizzard to remaster Diablo 2, that it would be far more work than StarCraft. He basically didn't expect it to happen. But now we're seeing more and more evidence that Blizzard is having a strong go at remastering Diablo 2. We've just had this job posting appear under their Classic Games umbrella for a senior producer. And some choice quotes from the job posting include, "Do you remember the paradigm shift that accompanied Diablo 2's 1.10 patch? Do you have a spreadsheet comparing the Necromancer between Diablo 2 and 3? Classic Games is seeking a senior producer to help drive our Diablo titles." I'll link the job posting in the description below in case any of you folks want to apply. Now, last time we saw job postings hinting towards a Diablo 2 remaster. What I said was that I do believe Blizzard intends to do it, but that doesn't mean we're guaranteed for it to happen. They might realize this is just not possible, it's too much work, or for whatever reason we can't do this, and they would abandon the project. With this added job posting, it's seeming more and more likely that it will come to fruition, and I believe the possibility exists, which is very different from me saying I expect this to happen. I believe it is possible that we'll get an announcement of Diablo 2 Remaster at BlizzCon 2017. I'm not expecting the new Diablo game to be revealed this BlizzCon. I still think it's too early. The best I think we can hope for is either the announcement of a new character pack for Diablo 3, or the D2 Remaster, or both. But what do you folks think? What are you expecting from BlizzCon? Oh god, how many of you guys are just gonna write now disappointment? On to some more good news about Diablo, this time for Diablo 3. We've had the first patch go through, or the first update go through for the test server, and it's come with yet more buffs. Now I'll put the link to the full patch notes in the description below, but basically, wizards have had their frozen orb damage more than doubled. DMO wizards, Delzir's Magnum Opus wizards, are now doing Greater Rift 110. For the Demon Hunter, Lord Greenstone's fans, damage has been buffed. There was a big buff to the Natalia 6-piece set, and Natalia's is now doing Greater Rift 105. And it's funny because this was addressing a community complaint that happened after the PTR went up that Natalia's really needs to be buffed. Blizzard listened. For the Barbarian, the Wrath of the Waste set gives you damage reduction while whirlwinding. Now that'll last for 3 seconds after you let go of Whirlwind. This historically made it really difficult to activate another skill that interrupted your Whirlwind, because you could just instantly die. And once again, it seems Blizzard pulled this straight from a community suggestion. Someone had literally just suggested to extend that duration by 3 to 4 seconds. Blizzard listens. I'm as surprised as you are. For the Crusader, the Akan set now gives even more damage reduction, and we're seeing the Captain America Crusader, the one that throws the shield around, doing a Greater Rift 110 with the Akan set. For the Wizard, we're seeing buffs to Chantotos and to Veers, and the impact isn't clear yet. It's obviously a buff, but by how much is yet to be determined. Oh, and those new zones added by the Necromancer pack, the ones that everyone has been complaining about, well, you can't get them in Greater Rifts anymore. Blizzard listens. Now, we've also gotten word about a second PTR update that we can expect to be planned for next Tuesday, but that could be delayed. And we know this from posts on the forums by Don Vu, who is apparently back on the Diablo team after a brief stint helping out the World of Warcraft team launch Legion. Welcome back, Don. So we know from Don that the Battle Rage Bloodshed rune isn't properly working right now. It's not dealing enough damage. That'll be fixed in the next update. And for a future update, the team is looking at buffing the Immortal King's 6-piece damage bonus and buffing the damage reduction from the Band of Might. Also, quote, we're reviewing our options for making Hammer of the Ancients better. Hoda Barbs may come back, folks. And he said about Jade Witch Doctors, quote, we'll be increasing duration for the things affected by Creeping Death from 3,600 seconds to 14,400 seconds. That's 4 times as much. We'll also be testing adding 50% damage reduction after casting Soul Harvest for the Jade Harvester 6-piece. These are significant changes that should see the Jade Doctor climb even higher. Now, if there's one thing that you've noticed from what we've mentioned here, it's that Blizzard is now starting to address survivability more. Ultimately, the main factor that determines how far you can push in Greater Rifts is your damage. Your toughness, your survivability, that's more of a quality of life thing. That's for your sanity. But if you don't deal enough damage, you'll never complete a Greater Rift in time, regardless of how much health you have. The converse is less true. The more perfect, the more ideal a rift, the less you're going to be taking damage at all, so your damage is really your rate limiting factor. That's why Blizzard has historically been buffing and nerfing around damage, so it's nice to see now some buffs to damage reduction, which aren't really going to impact a build's Greater Rift ceiling, but will certainly help make a build more enjoyable to play, less frustrating to play. And that covers our Diablo news of the week. Remember that this is a conversation, and I do want to read your comments. Alright, on to Overwatch. Wow, is it a good time to be an Overwatch fan. It seems all the love that Diablo is not getting is being put into Overwatch. First off, the animated short for Mei has been released. If you haven't seen it, do go check it out. I'll put a link to that in the description below. I won't give any spoilers here, but this one hit me in the feels. To be fair, most of the animated shorts hit me in the feels, but I did not expect Mei's to hit me in the fields. You'll know the moment when it comes. This isn't much of a spoiler, but I found the origin story of her gun really cool. That part of the video really interested me. And for anyone wondering what Mei said in Mandarin towards the start of the video, it's "Why is it so cold?" or "How is it this cold?" Now, the other really cool thing about the Mei animated short is that it has finished proving that everything said in the January 9th leak is true and came to pass. The leak made 4 major claims, and all 4 of them have now come true. The Lunar New Year event, the Mei animated short, Orisa, and Doomfist. If you haven't seen the animated short yet, we're going to include some spoilers here, just read from the leak. We're going to read what the leak said about the Mei animated short back in January. Quote, "New origin story. Speaking of Mei, her origin story is up next. With the team at Eco Point Antarctica cut off from communications and supplies, they voluntarily go into cryogenic sleep. Mei wakes up 10 years in the future, with only the viewer shown the timer, and she continues her daily business. Eventually, she uncovers 10 years worth of data at one of the terminals and rushes back to the cryopods, wiping the glass window as it cuts to her face, having realized what transpired. She hatches a plan to bring communications back up, with a robot assistant helping power her life support. Venturing out, her power shorts out, and the robot ultimately sacrifices its life to spare Mei's." And that was the feels bomb. It ends with Mei at a transponder, viewing a repeating loop of Winston activating all members of Overwatch per his origin story. The viewer is left to realize that Winston is ultimately responsible for waking Mei. So it's just nice to know that of the myriad of fake leaks that we've had, there has been one legitimate leak that has nailed every single one of his predictions, affording for little things changing here and there, given how much time elapsed. Now, ever since his Orisa prediction came true, I believe this leak 100%. I was just left wondering whether or not the next upcoming short would still be Mei's, or whether they changed it around to make it the Junkertown short, for instance. Which brings us into our next news story. Now, when the Junkertown short, I don't know if I can call it that, the Junkertown animation released, a lot of people falsely believed that this was the animated short, and because of that, some people were left disappointed. Hopefully that disappointment disappeared once the proper short released. But I definitely enjoyed it for what it is. If you have not seen the Junkrat and Roadhog on Junkertown video, I'll put a link to that in the description. Go check it out. It's very funny. Just don't expect it to be like a full-blown short. It's a much lower effort endeavor, but it's still very entertaining, and I hope Blizzard is encouraged to produce more of these at greater frequency. I think my favorite moment was when they were hatching the plan, and it was very reminiscent of a scene from Shaun of the Dead. Now, apart from that video, Blizzard also released a video overview of Junkertown. It's a new escort map that takes place in Australia. We finally see where Junkrat and Roadhog came from, and something I really felt from both of these videos is a very strong Team Fortress 2 vibe. Some people may say Borderlands, but I'm not too familiar with Borderlands. But I feel the show was really stolen by the Queen of Junkertown. Cool voice, lots of personality, and at the end, you see that throne with the weapons on the side. It seems to be hinting, suggesting, could the Queen be a future character coming into Overwatch? Well, in an interview with streamer Queen E, Overwatch effects artist Rachel Day basically said that for now she's just a voice. But we have to remember that Doomfist started off as just a throwaway villain. He was never intended to become a character. So if the community shows enough support, we might one day see the Queen of Junkertown. Other exciting Overwatch news was the hero balance update. We'll link that video as well. But basically, we've got changes coming to Reinhardt, D.Va, and Mercy. And the changes to Mercy are insane. Now, Mercy currently has a huge impact on the way the game is played. I'm sure you've all experienced the frustration of beating the enemy team, and then, bam, a Mercy swoops in for a 5-man res, and you're just, Mercy's abilities encouraged a playstyle where Mercy would just hide, wait for her team to die, and then res everyone. And that's not fun for anybody on either side. So now, Mercy's res is no longer her ultimate, it's just an E ability, usable once every 30 seconds on cooldown. And you can only revive one person with it. So instead of holding your Q for a massive res, you're instead going to be resing more often, but only one person at a time. That is, apart from when she goes into her new ult mode, Valkyrie. Valkyrie lasts 20 seconds, during which Mercy can freely fly around. She can heal and damage buff multiple people at the same time. Her gun shoots faster and she doesn't have to reload. Her cooldown on revive is instantly reset, and then is shortened by 10 seconds. So in other words, you can revive one person, hit Q, immediately revive another person, 10 seconds later revive another person, and another 10 seconds later revive a fourth person. So that's 4 people in just a little bit over 20 seconds. Now, those of you who have been watching my Overwatch videos from the start know that I at least was a Lucio main. What you probably don't know is that I've been transitioning into a Mercy main, and I'm very excited about these changes. I don't know if I'm going to be better or worse at this new Mercy. I might be worse, but I will have more fun, I feel. But what do you folks think? Then D.Va's getting some major changes. She can now shoot rockets, and these rockets can be fired while using any other ability, including flying or defense matrix. Now, before we cry OP, her defense matrix will now deplete twice as quickly. She could also now use her regular guns while flying. This is a pretty significant change to D.Va that makes her less of a tank and more, I guess, offense. What do you folks think about this change? Because I'm not sure how to feel yet. I rarely play D.Va, so I do like the idea of not being blocked by her defense matrix as much, but I fear this will just result in less diversity in tank picks. And speaking of tanks, great change coming to Reinhardt. When he has his shield up, you can now rotate the camera around to look around you. For the longest time, we've been wanting rear view mirrors for Reinhardt and his shield. When he's got his shield up, situational awareness is really important, so the ability to now look around you is just really great. On to more news, we got word of competitive changes. I'll link that dev update again. The team was really busy. Seasons will now be 2 months long instead of 3. To account for that, you're going to get more competitive points per win and fewer at the end of season. Control maps will now be a best of 3 instead of a best of 5. Your 10 placement matches at the start of a season will now more accurately reflect your skill rating. If you've ever felt, oh, what the heck, I've lost rank after doing my placement matches, that's by design. Blizzard wanted to give you a sense of progression, so they would deliberately put you at lower SR than they calculated. I get that it's fun to have that feeling of progression at the start of a season. It's like, oh, my SR is going up, but what about the frustration of having your SR go down between seasons? Now at higher levels of play, queues will take longer in order to ensure more fair matches. And as revealed in this ballot post, players in Silver, Gold, and Platinum can now also drop rank like those of higher rank. In other words, if your SR drops from Gold into Silver, then your rank will change from Gold to Silver. Now, my first impression was that I didn't like this. I kind of like the fact that, okay, I got Gold, I got Plat, I never have to worry about losing my little, status. The game still accounts for your SR being wherever it actually is, but you don't have that feeling of discouragement of losing something that you attained. So again, I didn't like this change at first, but then I thought about it, and how often has it happened that you get defeated in a comp match and you see, oh, well, they were all higher rank than me? Well, were they? Seeing other people's rank does have a psychological impact on us, both before and after the game. And if their rank is not being accurately reflected, then it could actually be giving the enemy team an advantage, or otherwise making your impression of the experience poorer. Maybe that Platinum guy was actually Gold. So this should hopefully be an improvement towards the psychology of play and matchmaking. There'll be less people thinking that the matches are unfair, and going into a match you won't feel as demoralized by someone's rank. But what are your thoughts on this? Now I want to finish off with 2 really cool things, not related to Blizzard but still Overwatch related. And the first is this artwork here by Vladimir Krzyzewski. And as you can see, it's a very Russian-inspired take on Overwatch. It's in the Gopnik style, is what they're referring to it as. Here you have Sorge76, you have Anzila, you have Baba Anna, and you have Reinvan. Now, I don't know if this is offensive to say, but Gopnik, as per the Wikipedia definition, is basically the Russian equivalent of white trash. And some major characteristics of it would be the squatting positions for photos and wearing Adidas tracksuits. I just think it's super nice artwork. It feels very Left 4 Dead to me. And I feel the artist did an excellent job at capturing the feel of the original characters. Only Mercy I feel is a little off. I don't know if it's the red hair, but otherwise I feel they're very faithful to the originals. And the last thing I want to show you guys is something called Oasis, the Overwatch AI Skill Improvement Simulator. This is a website where you go, you put in your battle tag, and it's going to analyze your match history. It's going to judge how good you are at the game, and it's going to give you tips on where you can improve. The creator says, quote, I made a machine learning algorithm to estimate your SR and attempt to tell you how to improve at Overwatch. Oasis looks at your in-game statistics such as eliminations, deaths, and damage done to guess your SR. Once that's done, it will list all the characters you play and give you an estimated SR if you one-trick that hero, and the 3 stats the algorithm thinks you should work on improving. Now, this website will only be up for a few more days, so do go there now, do go plug in your numbers. I found it to be really accurate. The advice it gave me really felt like it understood my playstyle, though it does seem that if you haven't played really any competitive matches, your results won't be as accurate. But do go check it out and report back. Do you think your results were accurate? Another cool bit of trivia is that this guy basically made this as a cover letter for Blizzard, as a means of trying to get an internship with Blizzard. I hope he gets in. And that wraps up our news for the week, but do remember to leave a comment with your thoughts on any and all of the news stories that we've covered. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon subscribers for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more Overwatch and Diablo content.